Bechor, you're good over there in the back? Okay, very good. This is late reaction time, Mom.
I know, I was thinking.
דברים העומדים ברומו של עולם. טוב, פרשת ראה רבותיי. We are about to enter Shabbat Mevarchim for the month of Elul. Chodesh HaRachamim ve'Haselichot. That's what Sfaradim call it. You know, the Ashkenazim and the Sfaradim have a bit of a disagreement on Elul. Ashkenazim, it's very much Emat Adin. I remember when I was in yeshiva, the Rebbeim would speak about how when they would mention Rosh Chodesh Elul in the Shabbat Mevarchim, the women in the Ezras Nashim would faint. The women, they're upstairs Ezras Nashim, they would faint. They tell that to you in yeshiva? They mentioned that? Binyamin, they mentioned it to you? Yeah, you're smiling. I figured that you heard this too. You never heard that in yeshiva? I heard it a lot of times. Really? Yeah, they would faint because of the imah, the fear of days of judgment. Although they say, Rabbi Sami Salant said that teshuvah is not something to be afraid of. It's not a bear and it's not a lion to be afraid of. And the Chavetz Chaim would say that too, because sometimes you get so afraid that you're like, I can't do this. And then you end up not doing teshuvah because how can I do teshuvah? It's just, you read Rabbeinu Yonah, you say, wow, so many steps to I'm never going to be able to do it. Forget it. It's not for me. It's for the tzaddikim. They should do teshuvah. And then he misses out on the whole mitzvah, which is the Torah says one mitzvah. The Torah says that it's an easy mitzvah and it's close to the heart and it's not far and it's not me'ever layam. It's not as Ramayim. He ends up missing out on the mitzvah because it became daunting. It became difficult. I say jokingly, Ashkenazim faint by Elul, but Sfaradim, the wives faint by Adar, because they're hearing Pesach is coming up, so then they faint also. So we also, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Hayim, everybody's fainting at a different time. But Be'etzem, why is it that Sfaradim don't have that approach? Because we look at Elul the other way, the opportunity. Like I said, Chodesh HaRachamim ve'Haselichot. This is a window of opportunity in the year where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has additional mercy. Every day of the year Hashem has mercy. But something special, something that even the angels don't understand, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows so much grace at this time of the year. So this is a huge opportunity. As Sfaradim, we jump on these opportunities. I know sometimes people, they mistakenly utter complaints. They're like, why? Selichot is coming. Oy vey. But what's the oy vey? It's a good thing. The Selichot is upon us. It's a wonderful thing. This is a unique opportunity to be able to connect and turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just imagine a person who for 3-4 days was involved in heavy, dirty work. And his hands are dirty, his face is sweaty, his clothing is all disgusting, and he didn't have the opportunity to take a shower for 3-4 days. Finally, you give him the chance to take a shower. He's going to say, I'm so annoyed, I have to take a shower now. He's going to be happy, Baruch Hashem, I'm able to clean myself, I'm able to rid myself of all this dirt, I'm going to feel so much lighter, so much more effective. That's a beracha. That's the month of Elul. Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to have all these opportunities. We're going to have our young men be able to stay up until 12:45, right? You're going to be able to stay up until late. And that's just starting, right? Because you get to stay up until 1:30 it comes out. I see your plan. It's a good plan. But Baruch Hashem, we're going to have a few minyanim of the Selichot. The days are going to be approaching. Thursday, Friday is already Rosh Chodesh. It is true, next week we won't be saying Selichot. It's going to be the week after that. But we already have to start preparing ourselves in the mindset, because if we don't prepare ourselves, the next thing we know, we're turning the other way and it's already past Rosh Hashanah and it's past Yom HaKippurim and we completely missed the days of Teshuvah. As a matter of fact, Rav Biederman says a beautiful maaseh, a story about a Hatan and a Kala. Mazal Tov, they got married. There's a wedding. Now, this is talking about people, the high levels, Avrich ben Torah, right? He's learning in a yeshiva. His wife is a tzaddiket from a very nice, good family with Yirat Shamayim, God-fearing, good character traits, and everything else. And they got married, and everything was wonderful until about 2 weeks into the marriage. I know, it's a pretty short time. She comes to the Rav, and she says, divorce immediately, no question. Divorce, I don't want to hear it. The Rav says, how could it be? What happened? He's a good Ben Torah and you're Eshet. How divorce in 2 weeks? She says, Kivod Rav, he's a Shegitz. That means he's a Goy. What does it mean he's a Goy? What are you talking about? Learning Torah all day, what Goy? Harav, I'm telling you, there's no way. This is irreconcilable differences. Harav says, tell me what happened. She turns to him and she says, I served him dinner. It was lunch, I'm sorry. I served him lunch. It was about 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon, and I decided to make basari, to make meat for lunch. Said that, wonderful. He ate the food, he said thank you, everything was wonderful. And then he asked me for a cup of coffee. So I turned to him, I said, cup of coffee with milk? He says, with milk? You mean soy milk? No, I mean cow milk. Is it cow milk? You just had meat. She said, give me a cup of coffee with milk. That's what he asked me. I heard that. He wants me to give him after meat, to give him a cup of coffee with milk. Is a shegitz, is a goy. I don't want to be married to such a person. So mechalel, halacha. Is this have to wait 6 hours? What is he doing? The Rav hears this and he's shocked. It's a Ben Torah. He's going to have a cup of coffee with milk after he just finished a meat meal. It's impossible. So the Torah tells us, Shamoa ben achechem ushfatem tzedek. You can't hear one side of the story and make decisions. The Rav says, listen, I hear what you're saying, and based on what you're saying, your point is valid. I have to speak with him. I have to see, well, maybe there's another side to this story. The Rav imagined to himself, there's got to be something, I can't be. She must have misunderstood. So he said he's going to go to the yeshiva. He went to the kollel. He finds the avrech and he turns to him. He says, tell me, what did you eat for lunch? He said, I ate meat. I had chicken, lunch, regular. Did you ask for coffee after you had meat? He says, Rav, yes, I asked for coffee. He says, with milk? He says, Kivod Rav, with milk. I asked for coffee with milk. How could it be that you asked for coffee with milk? Arei it's asur. He says, Kavod Rav, I want to tell you something. I've been married for a very short time. We've been married for 2 weeks. But in the 2 weeks, that short amount of time, I managed to get to know my wife a little bit better. And I picked up a certain common theme that every time I ask for something, it takes basically no less than 6 hours until it actually happens. Between my requesting and it happens. I said, it's lunch. I want to go to the kollel. I'm going to come back in 6 hours from now. If I ask in 6 hours, it's going to take a long time. I said, I'll ask now. And by the time she actually brings it to me, Baruch Hashem, I'll be back from the kollel. Hopefully it'll be ready on time, the cup of coffee. 6 hours will pass. Arav mehadri mina mehadri. And everything is kasher. The Rav laughed and joked. The people that aren't laughing are the ones that don't have wives. They don't know what I'm talking about. No, but I don't even know either. I'm just joking around. No, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But Lemaaseh, my wife listens to these. Lemaaseh, though, says Rav Biederman in a beautiful pshat. He says, a lot of times, if we're not stopping to pay attention, to be makdim beforehand, 6 weeks pass by, and we're already after Rosh Hashanah, we're already after Yom Kippurim, and we're looking back, and we say, where did these days go? And we have to prepare already milechatchila. We have to be ready. We have to get into the mindset. We have to understand that these days are very unique days of opportunity that are invested in us connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and taking the opportunity to do teshuvah already from Rosh Chodesh Elul, from already when we hear this Shabbat Mevarchim, the month of Elul, already start Hirurei Teshuvah, connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and repenting for the mistakes that we made along the way in the year. As the Torah tells us that Lavan turns to Yaakov and he says to Yaakov Avinu, Yesh le'eli yadi la'asot imachem ra. Says Lavan, this is Parashat Vayetze, Yaakov Avinu is running away from the house of Lavan. This is after 20 years being in the house. Esrim shana bevetecha, avaticha, says Yaakov Avinu. He's in his house for 20 years. He escapes because he knows Lavan is not going to let him go so easily. So what does Lavan tell him? I have in my capacity, la'asot imachem ra. I could do evil to you. I can go ahead and I could do real harm and damage. And the Baalei Musar explains what's Lavan. Lavan is the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is determined. The Malachim that criticize Am Yisrael in heaven, they are Lavan. That's the Lavan. So they have the capacity to do evil. The Satan wants to harm Am Yisrael. He wants to come before Hashem and say, your children are no longer your children. They're not acting in your ways. Says he wants to do evil, but what happened with Lavan? Lavan then turns to Yaakov and he says, Elohei avichem emesh amar elai. Yesterday, last night, emesh means the night before, he told me, Hishamer, mitdaber im Yaakov, mitov vadra. We don't want your good, we don't want your evil. Leave us alone. Leave Yaakov Avinu alone. What's the word that he used? Emesh. Aleph Mem Shin. The Baalei Musar explain, if you take those letters backwards, Shin Mem Aleph, Shabbat Mevarchim Elul. The Shabbat Mevarchim of Elul is the protection. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, there's a Lavan out there that wants to harm Am Yisrael. You know what I tell that Lavan? Emesh Amar Elai. Yesterday, already from before, prepare ahead of time. Prepare from Shabbat Mevarchim, already prepare and be ready, so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, Hishamer lecha midaber im Yaakov. Stay away. You're no longer able to criticize Am Yisrael. So we have the capacity to stop the criticism by just taking upon ourselves something simple, to go ahead and to accept upon ourselves in our heart, Hirure Teshuvah. As a matter of fact, there was a story, and this actually segues very much into the Parashat, because the Parashat talks a lot about giving. Naton titen lo, velo yera levavecha betitecha lo. To give and to not make calculations. Is a lot of times people don't give out of calculations. They say, if I give, and the Torah's example is the 7th year, it says I give him a loan. He's asking me for a loan, but very nice, I'm going to give him a loan. What's going to happen? There's going to be the last year of the Shemitah year, at the very end of the Shemitah year, all loans are automatically forgiven. So he said, I'm going to give him a loan, and he's not going to pay me back, and what's going to end up happening is the loan's going to end up being forgiven, and then I'm going to lose out on my money, so I don't want to give him. Torah commands us against that kind of a thought. A person should not make such calculations, even though it's a very calculated point. It's logical, but it's not. The Torah does not want logic. Logical, you don't deserve parnasa. Logical, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't owe us anything. Logically speaking, everything we have is a gift. All of a sudden, we get into logic. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, the whole parasha is about giving and giving and giving. So this is a story that happened in Tisha B'Av. The story goes as follows. There was an individual that was living in Yerushalayim, the outskirts, and he needed to make it to the hospital, Hadassah, and Kerim. It says, there's no hag, the common custom in Israel, especially people that it's not so easy for them parnasa-wise, is they try to get a ride, hitch a ride from place to place. So he figured, to go from where I live all the way to the hospital, probably not going to find anybody that's going to do that. It's 20 minutes, 25 minutes until you're able to make it through the traffics of Yerushalayim. He says, but I'll get a ride from one place to another. Eventually I'll be able to get there. I'll hop from one point to the other. So he wanted to hitch a ride. The first person that comes to him says to him, you could tell, Baal Hesed, the person that likes to do kindness, brings him into the car. And before he's able to say what he needs and it's okay if you can't take me, he says, tell me where you need to go. He tells him, I need to go to the hospital, but he's going to say, I understand if you can't take me. He's like, I'll take you all the way. And he goes, takes him. Now, he's so astounded, that's a take from your day. Everybody's busy. This is not, everybody's busy. Everybody has big families. It's not such a simple thing. And he's like, Mamash, astounded. As he's about to be dropped off, he sees that he's puzzled. So the driver turns to him and he says, let me explain to you. Today's Tisha B'Av. I know you're going to the hospital. You had something. You told me that you were going to see your son. He's there. Tisha B'Av is a fast day. And the doctors, they say a person before a fast, sometimes people make this mistake. They say because especially Tisha B'Av is a summer fast, you drink a lot an hour or two before the fast. You say, okay, I got to make sure I'm hydrated. He starts drinking half a gallon of water right before the fast. Is this a mistake? Not that it's a bad thing to drink, But he needs to prepare before that. He needs a few days ahead already to start drinking, already to hydrate himself. It's not going to help to drink a half hour before. Even if he drinks a lot, that water is simply going to go in and it's going to go out. The body can't take it in. In order to hydrate yourself properly, you need a few days of preparation. If that's the truth, for when it comes to Tisha B'Av, there's going to be another fast called Yom Kippurim. And this is a spiritual fast. It's not a fast in morning. I want to come into Yom Kippurim. Imagine 5 minutes before Kol Nidre, I need to do chesed. It's not good enough. You need to prepare yourself already weeks beforehand and train yourself in doing chesed and load yourself up with kindnesses. And that's what I was doing. I'm here. Baruch Hashem, it's Tisha B'Av. He was already preparing for Yom Kippurim, for the days Yamim HaNoraim, in order to say, I'm not going to just do Chesed the week before. I'm going to do Chesed already starting from this point in time, so that I'm fully prepared for these amazing days. And that's the mindset that we have to be, is constantly on the lookout. We have to be very vigilant for the kindnesses around us to be able to help others. As I'll tell you a story about Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. This is a great story. And such a man, such a gadol ador. He wasn't just a giant in Torah, which in its own right is super significant, but he was a giant in loving people and caring for people. As busy as he was, it's hard for us to imagine, but the whole world hangs on Gedolei Ador, like Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Literally the whole world hanged on him. I mean, the hospitals were running based on his directives, and institutions and yeshivot and rabbanim and communities based on his decisions. Like, things would change. The whole world would change based on whatever he called. So this is a very busy man. And somebody comes to him, somebody religious, dati, everything. He says to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, I have a very big emergency. I need to see the specific doctor. It cannot wait. I told the hospital, and in Israel, Shiyu Bri'im, the hospitals in Israel, they have a little bit of overwhelming. It's a socialist country. It's not like America. It's socialist. And the hospitals are booked. You have to make an appointment sometimes months in advance in order to be able to be scheduled in. And I said, I need to see this doctor. They said, this doctor's first availability 4 months from now. Is it 4 months? I can't even wait 4 days. I need to see him immediately. But the hospital said, that's it. That's all the appointment we have for you. We're sorry, we can't help you. I need to see him. It didn't help. There was like talking to a brick wall. So he went to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He says, I know Kavod Harav is his name, the recognition, the kavod that they give to the Rav. Can the Rav maybe write a letter to impress upon them the importance of me seeing the doctor immediately, not waiting 4 months? They'll see Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is involved. They're going to treat it differently. There's going to be a completely different level. If he's interested in this person, all of a sudden they'll take him seriously. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, without hesitation, says no problem whatsoever. He takes out a pen, he takes out a piece of paper, and this before AI. He wrote the whole letter and everything, word for word, everything that needed to be written. A nice long letter that was very respectful, very complimentary to the professor so-and-so. He finishes writing the letter. He's about to hand it to the person and give it to him, and he hesitates. He looks again at the letter carefully. He's not happy with it. He says, I need to rewrite this letter. He says, Kvod Harav, what's wrong with the letter? They read the letter. He doesn't see anything wrong. It's mamash mechubad. It's good. It's like really, it shows a lot of warmth to the doctor and gives kavod, ha'aracha. What's wrong with the letter? He says, look, I wrote professor and then his last name. But really, I should write his first name. I should also write his first name. Why? Because people view it differently. When you write also their first name and their last name, they take it more seriously. It's going to give more respect. It's going to have more weight to it. And you got to do a job right. So he took out a pen and paper to rewrite the whole letter. The problem was they didn't know the first name. So they had to search. It took time because he asked him, do you know the first name of the doctor? He's like, I don't know the first name. I know the last name. He said, okay, let's say they took out the yellow books. They open it up. They look for the name. And it was a tircha. It took some time. It took a good 15 minutes. And this person is eating himself up. He feels bad. This is the Gdol Ador. He's flipping through white pages to find the number and the name and everything else. In the meantime, he could be busy with saving the entire universe. And he apologized to Rav, I'm so sorry that I'm being matriach, I'm taking from your time. I'm burdening you unnecessarily. I'm so sorry. So the Rav looks at him and he says, I want to ask you a question. What do you think time was created for? What was the purpose that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created time? Hello, it was to do hesed for others. To be there, time was created so you could do for others. So now that I'm doing for others with my time, you consider that a burden? You consider that a difficulty? What's difficult? This is what the creation of time was created for this purpose. And he explained that to him, and he meant it. It was the truth. It says that's the purpose of why a person is a zanda. That's what I'm using. I'm using my time to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu invented the time in the first place to be. And we have to have that mentality. People are not burdens. Our families are not burdens. Our wives are not burdens. Our children are not burdens. The community is not a burden. These are not burdens. These are opportunities that the entire creation of the world. I said in the past, I've told you that they asked Rabbi Leeor Dahan, when the altar of Slabarka started, Yeshiva Slabarka, and the Kollel and everything else, and all the Gdolei Ador that emerged from it, he asked his Rabbi Leeor Dahan, what is the mission statement of a yeshiva? What am I supposed to be focused on? I'm starting a yeshiva. Where is my mind and focus and concentration? And Rabbi Leeor Dahan told him a line from Yeshaya, Le'achayot lev nidka'im. This one mission. The mission is to revive. These are people that left their families, that struggled, that are difficult for them, to commit it to Torah. Your job is to imbue life into them, to imbue happiness, to give them, to take depressed people and to make them, a purpose of living. That's the yesod of a yeshiva. Most of the time you think a yeshiva is purely just for the sake of learning Torah. And this is a very lofty goal. The learning of Torah is the existence of this world. But the goal of the accomplishment, lilmod al menat la'asot, al menat lekayem, what's the accomplishment of Torah? To be able to be the best man that you could be. The Torah makes you an adam shalem, a complete person, so that you're able to bestow good on others. The entire Slabarka was created with the intent of being able to revive the depression of others, to give life, to rejuvenate the soul of Am Yisrael. That's the yesod. So it's a funny thing that sometimes people say, I'm too busy with learning, I'm too busy with other things. There's a yesod is to be able to do for others. It's the whole purpose and mission of the world. And that's an important understanding that we cannot forget, even when we're Baruch Hashem. There's many people in this room, there's many people in our kahal that are very, very invested in Torah. It's Baruch Shemo. It's a beautiful thing. Some people are able to learn 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. Some people have mamash darim shlemim, a full seder of learning. There are people here that are Bnei Torah that learn 2 full sdarim, 3 full sdarim. It's an amazing thing. And that's a very important thing, because as Rabbi Victor Miller said beautifully, the best chesed that a person could do is make something out of himself. This is the best kindness you could do in the world, is to make something out of yourself. Because if you become a great person, then that light will shine throughout everything. It's a chesed to everybody. It's a chesed to the entire world, to make something of ourselves. And then we really are able to accomplish. And that's what Torah is able to do. But to never lose sight that is the purpose of the Torah, is to be naton titen lo. In order to be a giver, in order to be doer on the highest levels possible, is that only through the Torah you'll be able to reach that. A person thinks he's going to be able to give her. He's going to end up like these millionaires, these billionaires that give money, but they don't give. They're Indian givers. They give for the sake of getting. This is not the giving of the Torah, and there's no way for a person to understand the giving of the Torah unless he learns the Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person cannot be a Baal Chesed, a true Baal Chesed, if he does not know the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this external kindness is not the kindness of the Torah. It's important to understand. We find that the very beginning of the Parashat, of Chumash Bereshit, over there it talks about, open it up, don't worry. It's okay. We're here to do hasadim. The Parashat Bereshit, the Torah says, opens up with Gemilut Hasadim. How does it open with Gemilut Hasadim? Shene'emar, Hashem started the Torah with Hesed. He started it because it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Tofer. He knitted for Adam and Hava kotnot ol, Vayalbishem. He dressed Adam and Hava after they went ahead and they did the sin of the Eitz Hadat. They recognized their nakedness. They realized that their embarrassment, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu clothed them. And this was the Hesed that Hashem started the world with. So the Mefarshim all jump. They say this is not the first Hesed in the Torah. This is already on day 6. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a world. He created angels. He created animals. He created Adam. How many Hasadim were already done by that point in time? So many. It's countless. The amount of kindnesses that were performed way, way before that. So what are you telling me? HaKadosh Baruch Hu started with Hesed. And how did he start? Because he clothed Adam. No, he didn't. He started with Hesed in the very beginning of the creation. Ma'aseh Bereshit, the sun and the moon is not Hesed. The fact that there's so much animals is not Hesed. That Adam HaRishon was created with Hava is not Hesed. Everything was, it's all around. This is the example that you choose. It says this is the example. You want to know why? It's easy to do Hesed. This is a son of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adam HaRishon. He's the son. He's Yitzir Kapav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Of course you're going to want to do good for him. That's called Hesed. To do good for somebody you want to do good for. Let's wait until Adam sins, rebels against you, denies what you told him, says, I know I got one command, but I violated that command, and now let's see you do Hesed. Oh, that's a lot more difficult. That's the Hesed of the Torah. The Torah's Hesed is not when it's convenient, and it's good, and it's easy. It's when it's difficult, and when it's hard, that's defined as Hesed. When you have the Hasidah, that goes ahead and does kindness with its friends, the stork. It goes and it does kindness. So it's like, why is it a not kasher animal if it's doing kindness? It's a hasidah. Its whole name is doing chesed. So it's like Avraham Avinu. It's always doing chesed. That's not called Avraham Avinu. When you do kindness with those that are around you, you see other storks. Oh, they look like me. They resemble me. They're like me. I'll do chesed with them. That's tameh. That's the chesed leumim hatat. The chesed of the goyim is itself a sin, because it's all motivated by selfish motivation. As opposed to the chesed of the Torah, it's motivated from the source of resembling HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ma'u rahum, afatah rahum. It's a completely different thing. Is this week's parasha? To not make calculations. I'm going to lose out if I give him money. If I do that, I'm going to end up. No, you're not going to lose out a penny. Nothing's going to be lost out. Not from your time. Not from your doing. Now, the beginning of the parasha. We're going to come back to this topic, but I want to go to the beginning of the parasha. In the very beginning, it starts off with a grammatical discrepancy, you could call it. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to Am Yisrael, and he speaks to them in the plural. Lifnechem, before you. But the language that the parasha starts with is re'eh. Re'eh means see in the singular, not the plural. Re'u would be plural. So the mamash in the first pasuk, the grammar seems to be off because it starts off you and then it finishes with plural you. As English, it's the same you, but the plural and the singular you. Re'eh and then nifnechem. So what is the pshat over here? Very important to understand the story of the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav lived in the times of Milchet. There was a war. This was after the World War. This was already in the establishment of the state of Israel. So during the establishment of the state, there was a big war. As the declaration of the independence of the state of Israel caused all the Arab nations around them to wage a war, and it was very much an existential threat to all of Am Yisrael, because it was a nation that didn't have much, and just off the back of the Holocaust, barely survived and going into fighting a war against enemies that have been entrenched in that land for a long time. It wasn't a simple thing. Many Jews died. 6,000 Jews died to establish the state of Israel, which, in a certain sense, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has his calculations. But one thing the Goyim cannot tell us, and this is something that Rav Soloveitchik said many years ago, is the Goyim cannot tell us, we gave you a state. So sheker v'chazav, you didn't give us a state. We died. It was Jewish blood was spilled. They didn't spill any of their blood for a state. Jewish blood still. We gave ourselves a state. Am Yisrael was moser nefesh for a state. So the Goyim don't have a pitchon peh to say it's because of us you have a state. It's not because of you. Not because of you. We have to be makir tova to the good that they did. On the one hand, they did recognize the existence of the state. That's a kindness, but it's not due to you that we have a state. It's due to the sacrifice of Am Yisrael that there is a state. And that in itself is a chesed to recognize that they really don't have a claim to tell us and to guide us and to express to us that you should do this because we did for you. You didn't do you went to war to make a state. You have to press a vote, yes or no. That's called doing. We own the state. We can decide for good or for not. Unfortunately, it wasn't exactly decided not the best decisions were made from the state, but the Sof Kosof, Am Yisrael has the right to determine its own fate and decide to be Oved HaKadosh Baruch Hu without the Goyim's involvement. They don't have a right to be involved in something that they didn't invest in themselves. So there is a toilet in that. Nevertheless, back to the story. So the Brisker Rav, it was under heavy bombardment in the very beginning days. There was a lot of bombardment, a very dangerous time. It was right before Sukkot also. There's a Mamash Erev Sukkot, this story. And sure enough, everybody is looking to find a place to run to. Because there's bombardment, sirens going around. It's not a pretty situation. In the meantime, what's the Brisker Rav doing? He is looking to find Hadassim. Now, Hadassim are plenty. There's plenty of Hadassim, but the Briskers, they like Brisker Hadassim. There's like special Hadassim that are Mehudar Shebem Mehudar. So his next to him was a student. He turns to him, he says, Kevod Arav, now is the time to look for the Mehudar, Brisker Hadassim. Let's just find the ones that are Kasher Lechatechila. No halachic issues whatsoever. Find the kasher one. Yalla, we're in the middle of bombardment. Now is the time to go ahead and to focus on the mehudarim of the hadassim. He says, the Brisker Rav says, I have a question for you. It's a pele bimit, if you think about it. It's like to be able to have such a chilled attitude that doesn't faze you. I'm doing my mitzvah. It's like it's astounding. How does a person have that mental concentration and fortitude to be able to do that? So he says to him, imagine to yourself HaKadosh Baruch Hu were to come to you and give you a command to find for me brisk hadassim. Find it for me, please. You do me a favor. What wouldn't you do? Which stone would you leave unturned? Would you not leave unturned in order to fulfill this request? Of course you would do. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to you and says, Habibi, Yekiri, I need a favor from you. Can you get me these hadassim, please? I'm a die HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't care what's left. I don't see with my eyes straight. I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's it. I'm doing it. So it says that's what a person has to envision. Everything that he has in this world, every mitzvah, is a direct command from HaKadosh Baruch Hu personalized to you. So why is it so difficult to be'emet? If a person stops and thinks about it, there's no such thing as a mitzvah he would not do. There's no such thing. Every mitzvah, he would do it on the best level, like the story with Rav Tauber, who is in a huge Rav of the Arachim. And the one time, he gives seminars. And he really mekarev a lot of people, brings a lot of people closer to Torah, works with a lot of the Israelis. Unbelievable. He's a huge person, Baal Ma'asim. He's a person that experienced a lot, went through a lot, has tremendous wisdom, incredible person. So he, one time, was sitting there, and now is the Shabbat, a lot of the Arachim seminars happen on Shabbat. So the people that are there are not religious. That's the whole point, is to teach them Torah, to show them the beauty of Torah. None of it, by the way, is punishment and sachar ve'onesh. It's not scaring. It's totally just enlightening. It's showing the beauty of Torah, expressing mitzvot. What does Hashem want from us? What does Hashem not want from us? Why is it that you do it? So all of a sudden, you just present, and people see, well, this is a diamond. I'm not going to take a diamond. And that's what happens. Usually, almost everybody at least grows at least some level. Some become completely religious. They change their whole lives around. It's unbelievable. They're really incredible work. It's a chava that they stopped doing it in America. About 20 years ago or so, they focused only on Israel. Big chaval. There's just so much it could have been done in America. They really did. When they were here, there were many years that they were in America. They did incredible things. Gains that are unbelievable, immeasurable gains. So, b'chol zot, the story goes that he was sitting on the Shabbat table with a bunch of Israelis, and they weren't religious at all. And one of them started, he says, Kavod Arav, I need to leave. He said, why do you need to leave? I need to smoke a cigarette. I can't. So the Rav was in a predicament. He's not religious. What am I going to tell him? He can't smoke a cigarette. You can't tell that to somebody. And also that, but at the same time, I'm a Rav. I'm not going to tell him to not, I have to tell him not to smoke a cigarette. He didn't know what to do. On the moment, he said to him, can I ask you a question before you go? He says, yeah, of course, Rav. He says, imagine that Kadosh Baruch Hu came to you right now, and he said to you, my dear friend, Shlomi, my dear Shlomi, I really want a cigarette. Do you have a cigarette for me? would you give him a cigarette? B'vadai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would ask me for a cigarette, I'd smoke with him. One for you, one for me. So it's like, good. What if it was your last cigarette? And Hashem said, I want a cigarette. Would you give it to him? This is Sheila. Of course, my last cigarette, I'd give it to him without hesitation. Hashem wants it, I'm giving it to him. So Hashem is asking you for the cigarette. Could you please not smoke? That's what he turned to him. He said to him, Hashem is asking for it. He doesn't want you to smoke. He's asking for the cigarettes. Give me the cigarette. It was a beautiful way to present how it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares. He wants it. Well, you wouldn't do it. You'd jump over everything to do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What wouldn't you do? If he's asking you, of course, Hashem, you want me? I want to do for you. So what's the pshat? Think about it. Why is it that's so hard for people to wake up on time, to say Kiryat Shema, to pray b'kavana, to do Birkat HaMazon, to wear tzitzit, to tefillin b'chavana, and everything else? Why is it so hard for people to do the mitzvot and to be mechaven for them? The answer is a few things. The answer really is complicated because there's a few things that, sort of a bunch of layers that a person has to get to. Number one, we don't really feel that we're being commanded. It's kind of like, maybe it's optional, like in the subconscious, we don't really feel that Hashem is telling us to do this. And it certainly doesn't feel, to a large extent, it doesn't feel personal. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Am Yisrael. He didn't tell me. He said, Bnei Yisrael. Okay, I'm part of Am Yisrael, but it's like Girama. It's indirectly. I told Am Yisrael and I'm part of it. I don't really feel that Hashem is talking to us. And we also think, sort of, that Hashem gave the Torah 3,000 years ago. He gave it on Har Sinai in status quo. Okay, it continues to the next generation, and the father commands the son, and the son commands his son, and sort of we received it 3,000 years ago, and that's what's committed to us. So it's in the past. The command was in the past. The command was to Am Yisrael. It wasn't directly to me. As a person doesn't feel so connected, so obligated because of these thoughts. These are the types of thoughts. And also you could throw in that I have a lot of mitzvot I have to do. It's not like one mitzvah. Hashem commands me one thing. He's asking me all day to do things. So it's not so difficult. It's not so simple. Plus, the same mitzvah I'm doing over and over again. If you told me to pray once a year, it would be a different story. But he tells me to pray every day. It's a lot harder. So there's a few calculations why it's difficult. However, we get to the Kiryat Shema and we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu vehayu hadevarim ha'ele. Says Hashem to us, I want you to know, hadevarim ha'ele. Don't focus on the whole entire Torah at once and you got 613 mitzvot. How am I supposed to be? Hadevarim ha'ele, this mitzvah. I'm telling you one mitzvah now. Asher anochi. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's commanding? I'm commanding you. I'm telling you. Mitzavecha. You in the singular, not mitzavechem, mitzavecha. I'm telling you, I'm speaking to you. Hayom, not 3,000 years ago. Today I'm telling you to do the mitzvot. And then all of a sudden it's a completely different world. If a person stops and thinks, Vehayu hadevarim ha'ele, Hashem is asking for one thing, and He's asking, Asher Anochi, He's telling me, He's not Malach, not Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem is coming to me, and He's telling me, not Am Yisrael, me, Hayom, today, to do it. The Torah is not stale. The Torah is fresh. It says, Odinuvum beseva. It's mamash tari. It's as tari as it gets. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is commanding me to do it. All of a sudden, what? Of course, I'm going to do it. And that's what Hashem is telling us. Re'eh. Hashem, yes, I'm speaking to all of Am Yisrael. There's a whole nation here. But I'm not speaking to Am Yisrael. Re'eh. Individual. You are one person, Am Yisrael. I'm speaking to you. This whole entire Torah, all of the 600 mitzvot, all the parashiot that we have over here, is for you, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's looking at you. That's the re'eh that Hashem is commanding. Once we see that and we understand that's the relationship each and every single one of us has with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a personal relationship, it's a game changer, the whole dynamic of a relationship. What? Hashem, you're asking me to put on tzitzit? He reads the Parashat tzitzit. Hashem, you're asking me to put on tzitzit? How am I not going to do it? Of course I'm going to do it. You're asking me. We just had a story. We did Kirat Avodat Hashem, had a barbecue. There's a few people, I didn't know, they hesitated. They weren't sure. They had plans, different things. They didn't want to go. So I decided I was going to call up. I was going to call up maybe this person, that person. I said, I'll call up, see if they're coming or not. I didn't know who was coming, who wasn't coming. It's a good opportunity to have a conversation. So I invited. That's a Piloni. I turned to Piloni, so-and-so. I said, so-and-so, we're having a barbecue on Sunday. I don't know if you know. You're invited to come. All of a sudden, Oh, there's a barbecue. Bivadai, I want to come, 100%, I'm going to be there. And some of the people are like, well, we had original plans, but we're going to come. What was the difference? Because when it was a WhatsApp group that's posted, Rabotai, Kilat Avodat Hashem is having a barbecue, and you are invited, that's one thing. But when you get a phone call, personal, and it's individualized, and it's one person to another person inviting you, it's a different story. You feel different about it. All of a sudden, you're motivated. Oh, yeah, Vadai, we're going to come. The whole family, everybody's going to come together. It's a kochot hanefesh. So when we stop and we realize the Torah is not some generic command. This is a specific command, highly tailored to every individual, Am Yisrael, on a daily basis that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to on every single mitzvah. Asher anochi mitzavecha hayom. All of a sudden, Judaism is a completely different thing. It changes the relationship. It changes what you're doing. You're not just sitting 4 hours at a time in a night seder, in a morning seder. No. I'm on a second by second basis making HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy. He's requesting and I'm delivering. Wow, what a unique relationship. That's the relationship we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Isn't that a beautiful thing? It really is special. We really are a special nation. We're a special people. Not only that, one of the things in this week's parasha, it's called the Mesit. It's a very devastating parasha in that sense, because it talks about a Jew that tries to convince people to leave Hashem. And unfortunately, this is a true reality that we have even to this very day. It's so sad. The Torah deals very harshly, as an unprecedentedly difficult treatment that a person is commanded to treat a Mesit. A Mesit is the worst kind of a Jew that there could be. A person that takes away Jewish people from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It causes them to go astray from the will of Hashem and convinces them, we don't need Hashem, let's do Avodah Zarah, there's a lot of wonderful other things to do in the world. The world is a beautiful place, why do we need Hashem? Turn to this idol, turn to that idol. And this is something that Torah deals with very severely. The Torah tells us, Lo tachos ennecha alav. You cannot have mercy on such a person. Lo tachmor velo techase alav. Don't cover up for such a person. Don't have compassion for such a person. These are concepts the Torah is very for. Compassion, mercy, lelamed zchut. All these are amazing concepts. The Torah says, no. You cannot be melamed zchut. This is a person who's taking Jews away from Torah mitzvot. It's evil. It's terrible. You should know, most Jews are not like this. In Am Yisrael, there's many people that are misguided. Unfortunately, they weren't taught properly. That doesn't make a person a mesit. A person who violates Shabbat. It's a very severe thing, no question about it. He violates Shabbat, and some people drive on Shabbat. It's a very serious violation. Nobody's minimizing the violation. However, that is not a mesit. That's a person who's ignorant, that doesn't know, is misinformed, was not taught about the importance of Shabbat. Mesit means a person who takes Jews and says, why are you sending your kids to Jewish school? What's the point? So you're paying $20,000 for what? Send them to the public school. It's going to be great. That's a mesit. He tries to bring them down. He tries to get them to leave Kodesh and go to Hol. That's the worst type of thing that a person could be. And that's a very, very serious reality. This is the idea of the mesit. Now, what's the halacha by a mesit? If a person is caught with witnesses and everything that he is trying to take Jews away from Torah mitzvot, what's his punishment? Trivia. What's his punishment? He's being killed. He's put to death. Like Torah says, you have to go ahead. The punishment is the death penalty. I ask you a question. What happens if he tries to take someone away? He goes over to a Jew. He's a nice, religious, good school. He says, send your kid to public school. And they say, we don't want to listen to you. You're a mesit. We don't want to listen to you. And he tried, but it didn't work. He tried to convince them to leave Torah mitzvot. It didn't work. Is he punished?
Yes.
He's still punished, right? Good. He's still punished because it's not about the accomplishment, it's about the fact that he's trying to get people to stray away from Torah mitzvot. Now that, Rabotai, this is beautiful. If that's true for a person who's taking people away from Torah mitzvot, now let's go the other direction. Let's say there's a person who is, keeping Torah mitzvot, but you're trying to encourage him to do a little bit more. And you're debating in yourself. You're saying, look, I could tell him something from the bottom of my heart, from care and compassion. I don't actually know if he's going to really listen to me. So maybe it's not really worth my time. Maybe I shouldn't do anything. But maybe he will listen. I don't know. Should I talk? Should I not talk? But maybe it won't accomplish anything. No. The whole math is off. You tell him. You encourage him. You be there for him. Tell him a good word. try to convince him, try to incentivize him. And if it succeeds, which you'll be surprised, but many times it does. Many times a person hears it from somebody that really cares, they're willing to change. And if it doesn't, so you lose out on the reward. If the mesit gets punished, even though he didn't accomplish, he just tried to take people away. So the person who's trying to do good and convince others to do good, even if they don't end up listening, he still gets a full reward for the fact that he went and wanted to do good and bring people closer. Isn't that incredible, the way of the thinking of the Torah? So sometimes we're so accomplishment oriented, we stop to realize that even just that thought of wanting to be there for others makes such a difference. The communication of trying to bring and elevate others in Torah and mitzvot is so valuable in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the Kotzker Rebbe would say it nicely. The same pasuk that we quoted before, "V'hayu advarim ha'ele al levavchem." So the pasuk says, what's al levavchem? The words of the Torah should be on your hearts. It doesn't mean on your hearts. It should be in your hearts. This on is external, in. It says sometimes a person doesn't realize. He says something, and you could dismiss it, you could accept it. It could reside on the heart, and it didn't yet penetrate into the heart. But one day, that residing on the heart opens up a little bit and it falls in and it goes into the heart. So even if it's just alevavecha, maybe he wasn't going to listen to you, but you know what? You put the thought in his head. Now it's in his head. One day, maybe his heart will open up a little bit and then it will fall in. So even the alevavecha is valuable in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Alevavecha, keep it on the heart. And for ourselves, sometimes, we hear something, we're not ready to accept it. But don't dismiss it. Leave it there. The heart might open up one day and then it will come in. And the same thing for others. Tell people in the nice way. B'darchei noam. Try to convince, try to encourage, because maybe they won't listen, but it will be on the heart and eventually will enter into the heart. So that's a beautiful thing. Now back to the concept of chesed. I want to finish off with a great story. This is a story that happened in the last war. It's a true story. Is in the south when there were the heavy bombings that were going on between Hamas and Medinat Yisrael. It was very tragic, and the southern cities were the ones hit the most because a lot of their bombs went into Ashkelon and Ashdod and these places. They got a lot. You were there, Gabriel. No, it was in that area. It wasn't simple. That whole territory, Netivot also, and the people that lived more inward. It's not that they were fully protected, but they were definitely in better shape. So there was a family that were Bnei Torah. 7 kids, big, nice family. And the one thing was they had a home in the south. It was very close to these hot areas where there was a lot of problems. And they didn't have what's called in Hebrew mamad, which is like the safe room, the reinforced concrete room. They didn't have that, bomb shelters, yeah. So that's dangerous. You can't, it was like almost 100% if you were in those, you wouldn't be harmed. But if you weren't, it was bamash very dangerous. So you don't have that. It's a sakana. It's definitely a proper ishtadlut to try to find the place. So they had family. His brother-in-law, he called up his brother-in-law who lived more in central, and he said to him, "What do you say? We really need a place, and we can't stay in our house. It's not practical for us. Every time we have to rent a mamad, it's like another. We have to. A favor is, can you host us?" Of course we're going to host you. Now, the problem was, he said yes, but in truth he was financially very tight, very, very tight. And it's hard because it's every morning, it's double the breakfast. It's a family with 7 kids. Afternoon, double the lunch. Dinner, double the dinner. It's not like when you're at home with only your family, you can get away with mac and cheese, you can get away with, bread and peanut butter. It's like, no, you have guests, it means you have to make chashuv. Everything has to be much more. So it was a heavy, heavy financial strain. And his wife, what she was making, and the balei hasadim, they did in the morning, the afternoon. He even told his wife, he's like, when it comes, you need to host somebody, first you host, and then you figure out how you work it out. But the first thing is you host. You don't ask questions. You need to do it. You do it. Kabeh them, and then we'll figure out how to make it make sense and how to work it out. And indeed, they were financially very tight, like I said. So he had to go to a gemach. And he said, Baruch Hashem, one of the great things about Yisrael is they have gemachim. But even the gemachim are very restrained because as much as people give to the gemachs, there's so many people that need. So he borrowed from one gemach in order to make ends meet, just simply for basic stuff. There's dinners, lunches, all the necessities that are needed for another family that's living in the house. But they did it b'simcha b'shalom. He even told his brother-in-law, he said, as long as the war continues, you're here. You're not going anywhere. You're staying by us. As much of an expense it's going to be, they didn't even know how much it's going to be. So a few weeks passed, and Baruch Hashem, things calmed down. They were able to go back home. Okay, Shalom Al Yisrael. Another few weeks passed, and all of a sudden, in the kitchen, one of the pipes burst. The whole kitchen was flooded. As I think about it, I was like, oh, he's so worried. He's like, maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's going to be a quick fix. They called the expert to come. He told them, listen, this is a big balagan. There's a big problem. It's a huge project. You have to take out the pipes under. The whole thing is rotten from the inside. It's going to be thousands of shkalim. And he's hearing this, and his eyes are, I'm already in debt with the gemach. And the whole 3 weeks was like a complete crazy thing. And now I'm going to have to pay thousands of shkalim. I don't have where to even begin, but you can't have a flooded house either. So there's not much of a choice, and he doesn't know what to do. And it's sort of like the thought sort of enters, like zu Torah v'zu schara. Here he was hosting somebody in his house with misirut nefesh mamash, doing everything properly, and like only a few weeks later, all of a sudden he's hit with this tremendous debt that he has. So they were trying to sort it out, but in the meantime, they have to call the guy. The installator comes, the guy who does the building. He's breaking tiles. He's bringing in his machinery, heavy machinery, taking apart. Is digging in under the ground. And he reaches he notices something there that's unusual, and all of a sudden he uncovers like a hole. I don't understand what's going on. As he looks into it, he's like, you know what? We need to cover this up. I'm going to come back tomorrow. We're going to see what this is. We're going to investigate. The contractor did his investigations. It turns out that whole property was sitting on a parking lot. So the foundation of it was a big lot. He never got approvals for that lot, and therefore he wasn't able to make it a functioning lot. And instead, what he did, the person who built this building, he decided that he's just going to build part of the foundation on top of it, and the lot will be the lot. It won't exist, and the building will be the building. If we don't have permits for it, we won't use it. But now it was uncovered, so now they had access to it. He told the contractor, make a staircase. We're going to make it pretty, and people will live there. So they did that. Now there's a huge mitzvah. It comes out that it's a massive profit. Now he's basically discovered an entire apartment with 3 bedrooms. This pretty much a discovery, a huge area that he's de facto the owner of. This is huge. The only problem was the people in the building found out about it. And they said, Meichatesi, who says this is yours? We're all in the building. You're not the only person in this building, so you're the one that on the bottom floor, but we all deserve a chelik in this. So why should you get it? And evidently the permits were no longer an issue. They must have worked it out, or I don't know the legal system there, but it wasn't a problem anymore. So they took him to Beit Din. He says, look, I found it, too bad. So Beit Din, they were arguing the building, all the other people living in the building versus him. Who deserves this apartment? Who gets this apartment? The Beit Din was posek not in their way and not in this way. They said the contractor gets it because he's the one that discovered it. So the Beit Din was posek that he's the one that owns the apartment. The contractor said, I have nothing, I don't need this, I don't want this. I have no interest in it. It doesn't serve me any purpose. He says, I'm more than willing to give it to him as a gift. And he gifted it, Mamash gifted it to the person on the bottom for him. And he was able to bring in a family there that would pay him rent every single month, and all of his parnasah was taken care of. All of this was bizchut what? Naton titen lo. It wasn't coincidence. What? He happened to take him in, he happened to get into debt, and all of a sudden he discovered this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has his ways. Sometimes we think that why is Hashem bringing this problem? He's bringing that problem. All of a sudden the house has issues. All the balagan. People in the last few weeks had flooding. Right, we went through flooding in New York over here in the summer. This summer was a little bit different than usual. So a person can go ahead and say, what is Hashem doing to us? But the answer is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Naton titen lo. If you give to others, illogically, you give to others, all of a sudden you see beracha. Here emerges person, no longer had to worry about finances. From that day on, everything was taken care of for him. Why? Because there was siyata dishmaya. And that's our mitzvah. This is the parasha that tells us our zechut, our merit is to be able to do for others. I was thinking out loud, you tell me what you think. I think that's one of the reasons why we say when a person has children, the bracha comes with the children. What's the pshat? The bracha comes with the children. Because such a magnificent giving. The best gift you could give is gift of life. And when a person has children, he's gifting life to others. What's a greater chesed than that? There isn't a greater chesed in the world. You give a person money. Okay, so he has $100 more, $100 less. You gave him life. He wouldn't have been in the world without you. It's the biggest chesed, the biggest nitina a person can give. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you just gave so much. You gave a world. You gave a life. You gave a neshama to a person. That comes with a bracha. There's going to be a bracha involved in that. Because it has to be. If there's a nitina, the way the world is structured, there's got to be a reciprocal bracha to it. And that's why some people, they do math, they don't put this in the math equation. They're accountants. They go ahead and they say, well, we have these many expenses, we have these many children. If we have another child or two, it's going to tip the balance, and the tuition is going to be like this, and the tax is going to be like that, and we're not going to be able to afford it, and it's not going to work out. It says that this mathematical calculations, are you shoteh, you're a fool, you make mathematical calculations. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one. You give, and Hashem gives you. That's the calculation. There's no other calculation that matters. Those are the calculations that make a difference. And then if a person thinks and realizes that the more we give for others, and the more difficult it is to give, the more beracha he's going to see in his life. Judaism does not work with logic. It works with siyata dishmaya. Siyata dishmaya is not mathematics. Siyata dishmaya is the opposite of mathematics. When the mathematics don't make sense, and you do it anyway, go ask Chafetz Chaim. Go ask the yeshiva if their math makes sense. Their taxes make sense, no question about that. But their math doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. How are you able to support a whole yeshiva? Yeah, every month there's some other yeshua. Kadosh Baruch Hu brings in a yeshua after yeshua. There's no mathematical explanation for how so many people live in Eretz Yisrael, basically with checks that you can't imagine how small they are. 500 shekel a month. 500 shekel a month is like $120. Now it's a little bit more, $150 a month. They get checks with 500 shekel a month, and you're surviving with 6 kids. There's no math to explain that, Rabotai. There simply isn't. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world. That's how Hashem runs his world, and we have to realize that. And this is where the Parashat tells us, Ki biglal hadavar hazeh, due to the fact that you give, Yevarechecha Hashem Elokecha. Hashem blesses us. That's the math of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what we must remember. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.